Welcome everyone to another episode of Discovering Your Mission. I'm your host, Dr. Mordecai, and as always, I am honored that you have chosen to spend part of your day with me. On this podcast, I sit down with some of the nation's most influential leaders to uncover the experiences, challenges, and defining moments that shaped their personal mission. My hope is that by learning from their journeys, you'll gain the wisdom and inspiration for your own. Today's conversation is especially timely as community colleges continue to transform lives and strengthen local economies. Philanthropic efforts have become more important than ever. Yet fundraising isn't simply about asking for resources. It's about building relationships, creating opportunities, and investing in people. Joining us today is Meg Natter, Director of Community Colleges and Foundations at CASE, the Council for Advancement and Support of Education. With decades of experience in community college, advancement, and philanthropy, Meg shares invaluable insights on fundraising, leadership, donor engagement, and why community colleges are uniquely positioned to change the future of our nation. But before we begin, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, the EDU Ledger, for their continued support of Discovering Your Mission and for helping us elevate conversations that matter across higher education. Now, let's jump into this conversation with Meg Natter. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for Discovering Your Mission with Dr. Mordecai. On today, we have a guest that is doing amazing work around the country, talking about philanthropic efforts, supporting the missions of community colleges. We have with us Meg Natter. She is the Director of Community Colleges and Foundation for CASE. And if you haven't heard of CASE, it's the Council for Advancement and Support of Education. Meg, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Mordecai. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I tell you, it meant a whole lot when I heard that you were watching the show, and I says, hold on, this is a guest that we've got to get on. And, folks talk about all the time having to learn how to fundraise. Fundraising isn't necessarily something that many upcoming presidents or executives are spending much time on. We'll get into that. But first, Meg, I want to talk about your journey. What led to you choosing this pathway as a career, and what inspired your inspiration for wanting to advance the higher education in a philanthropic way?
Yeah, Dr. Mordecai, you're right. There aren't many folks who started off, growing up and wanting to be fundraisers. There aren't that many degrees in fundraising. So I was actually a journalism major, and my first job was a legislative aide, and I got very involved with my local community in Monmouth County, New Jersey. And after that ran its course, I looked for a job, and I started when I was 25 years old as the development specialist at Brookdale Community College in New Jersey. And I didn't know anything about fundraising, and that's where I got my start. Just like I said, a lot of advancement people start off in these development positions, lower level. I was basically the special events person and ran a few events for the college. But what really got me hooked is that I also had the opportunity to run our scholarship program. So I met with students who were just struggling and trying to figure their way through the world. And one in particular, I still remember, her name's Kimberly. And she was 25 and I was 25, and I was thinking about a master's degree and all that I wanted to do with my life. She was a single parent. She was working at a place called Babies R Us. I don't know if you remember Babies R Us, but she was working there. She had a child, and she had just completed her GED, and she needed a scholarship to get her through. And, it was one of those, but for the grace of God, go I moments. And I was thinking at 25, I'm like, I am helping this woman change her life, the trajectory of her life, her children, her child. So I dug in, and I got to meet more students. I got to meet the faculty at the school and just learn about the difference the community college was making in our county. And I stayed at Brookdale for over 22 years. I tried fundraising for a hospital. I left for just a few years to see what the healthcare philanthropy area was like, and it was not for me. So I went back to Brookdale, and I actually went back as a faculty member, and then I was the dean of the Humanities Institute. So I had fundraising all along the way in those roles. It was part of my job in a way, certainly helping the foundation at Brookdale. But I've had a very rich history at Brookdale Community College, and I'm thrilled to bring all that I've learned and my passion for community colleges to the CASE members around the country who are doing great things at their schools.
I love it. I love it. Community college is top of mind nationally for several reasons, especially given some of the legislation that has passed fairly recently. And my question to you is that from community colleges as a sector, what do you believe is the reason why community colleges are uniquely worthy for organizations or entities to get behind to support in a philanthropic way?
Sure. Yeah, I think, we're open access, right? And that right there is a philanthropic argument. The fact that we accept and welcome and seek out folks who never thought a college degree was possible, who are looking for training to upskill and get better jobs, get better salaries. So I think right there, that's the best philanthropic argument you have, that community colleges are solving real problems in their communities and making a difference right where it counts. And I think the ROI in the local committees really shows off their success.
Outstanding, outstanding. Let me switch gears here. Around the country, there are foundations that are supporting their community colleges, or I should say community colleges have their own foundation. From what you have seen from an environmental scan standpoint, what really makes successful community colleges foundations successful compared to those that aren't as successful? What's the difference there?
Yeah, the successful foundations, the college sees them as more than just a scholarship writing checkbook, right? It's not just where money is held and that it transfers that money over to the college. The successful foundations are truly partners with their college, and usually, I'll say usually, but usually the vice presidents of advancement are also the executive directors of the foundation. So there already is that tight partnership in a successful foundation between both entities. Now, sometimes the foundations are very independent, and that's okay too. But the most important part is that they are helping their communities. They're solving real problems, and their leadership is transparent. They are talking with folks in the community and really making a difference to help lives and as I said, solve real problems. So the effective foundations, they're not just wondering about how much money they can raise that year. Their questions are more about what's going on in our community, where are there shortages in the talent pipeline, where can we make changes? And that's really exciting to watch.
Yeah. Meg, do you think that the philanthropic world has changed over the past 10 years, or is it still operating essentially the same?
Well, when it comes to community colleges, the philanthropic world is taking note. It is a very exciting time to be involved in a community college advancement office. Just some examples, Mackenzie Scott is doing wonderful things around the country, and I think over $300 million in the past 6 years have come just from her to community colleges and also the tribal colleges. So that's a philanthropist, but when it comes to other foundations and companies, they're thinking about big dollars going to community colleges, and that's a shift. The largest donation to a community college was received just 2 years ago. It went to LaGuardia Community College, $116 million. Now, I know, the four-year universities are like, 116 million, 5 million, 20 million. They're used to those numbers, right? But at community colleges, like, holy cow, they are these philanthropists, these foundations, and I'm going to get to corporations in a second. They are watching how far their money can go into these communities through their community colleges or through the community colleges. So, for example, the Cohen Foundation, as I mentioned, at LaGuardia, they're building the Cohen Career Center. So they're going to be developing careers for, everything from hotel management to teaching. They're near New York City, so entertainment. So they're helping build jobs right there through LaGuardia Community College. So there you go. Philanthropists are saying, how can I make a difference and who can I partner with to make it happen? So that's a big shift. Amazon Web Services, Walmart, they're all looking at community colleges to help train the workforce and also, of course, to educate the workforce. But training is workforce training. I bet everyone who's watching this is going, that's where the money is these days. And again, it's not just $50,000. We're talking big gifts, big investments in these community colleges. Case did a survey. We do a survey every year. The one I'm referring to is 2025. It's our volunteer supportive education survey, and we asked our community college members where are their funds coming from? And when I look at the numbers, it says 32% are coming from foundations, 21% from companies. The most important or the most interesting area, it's the non-alumni individuals. So 27% of gifts to community colleges, according to those who participate in our survey, are coming from non-alumni individuals. Now, what does that mean? They're people in the community, just like you in Aurora County, people who just love what you do. They may not have gone to the school. They may not have children who have gone to the school, but they see these community colleges as the gem of their local community, and they want to help. Now, of course, I didn't mention alumni. Alumni giving is still down, and here's the thing. I don't want people to think that's a negative thing. Only about 5% of gifts to community colleges come from alumni, and that's okay, because think about our alumni. They may not be making a lot of money, right? Now, of course, some go on to bachelor's degrees, and some of them go right into fields where they are making, in lucrative positions, but some of them just can't give. And for these small advancement offices, some community colleges can only afford to have maybe 3, 4, 5 people on staff. They can't go through, alumni, it's like herding cats, right? There are thousands and thousands of alumni, and for a small staff, it's just too much for them to go after that alumni money, and I don't blame them. So I think as time goes on and more money and resources are channeled to foundations, that staff will grow, and we certainly do have community colleges that have big offices, and they are doing well with alumni. But again, to get back to my point here, it's corporations, it's foundations, corporate foundations, family foundations, and those non-alumni individuals who are so supportive now, more so than in years past.
This episode of Discovering Your Mission is brought to you by The EDU Ledger, a leading publication committed to advancing the conversations shaping today's higher education landscape. From innovative practices to policy insights and leadership perspectives, The EDU Ledger brings clarity to the issues surrounding educational opportunity that matter most. To stay informed and engaged, visit theeduledger.com. Now, let's get to today's conversation.
I want to switch gears here. I was just having this conversation with a colleague that works at American Association of Community Colleges, and we were talking about the shift, how many new presidents are really entering into the space. Many of them do not have fundraising experiences directly with the institution. We're talking about adjacent. They've been a part of nonprofits and supporting, but now they're coming in, they're chief advocate for the institution and wanting to drive a fundraising agenda. What advice do you have for the new generation of community college president or the new generation of community college executive to say, keep these things in mind as you're out there fundraising for your institution?
Sure. It's scary. Fundraising can be scary. You're putting yourself out there, you're asking for gifts, and I get it. But I don't know how you presidents, how you do everything on your to-do lists, and I know you're like, oh no, I have to be a fundraiser too, but you have to be the fundraiser too. You have to be the chief fundraiser, because the Mackenzie Scotts, the Cohens, those big donors, they want to meet with you. They are investing in your school, and as lovely as your vice president of advancement may be, and as kind and generous and wonderful, they want to meet the president. So you have to embrace this. And guess what? You're already the best storytellers for your schools. You're talking to parents, to students, to local corporate leaders, to local organizations at Rotary meetings. I know what you do. I've seen it all happen, and you're already doing such a great job. And you really, for fundraising, for your role is telling the story over and over again, and just having your vision for the school and your joy for that institution shine. Now, the advancement stuff, the donor pipelines and the data and the research on these prospects, that's for your advancement team to help you. And they should be in charge of all of that. They should be your partner, right? And here's a question for all presidents. How close are you to your vice president of advancement or the executive director of your foundation? How often do you meet with that person? Do you meet with them monthly? Are they on your president's cabinet or your senior executive team? They really should be. They should be part of the strategy for what you're doing at that school. The foundation, the fundraising leader, needs to see what is going on at the school, what the challenges are, where needs aren't being met, because that advancement leader is going to start thinking about the community and where the matches can be made, right? Where is someone passionate about nursing? Where is someone passionate about coding? And he or she's going to find those people and bring them to you, to the president, and talk about the great things that are going on at the school. So my advice to you is, first of all, you already know what you're doing with storytelling. You're already good at that. So don't panic. There's not much that you have to learn here. It's just you need to get closer to your advancement team. You need to work with them and consider them your coaches or your buddy, and open your doors to the ideas they have. You may need to host a tea or a coffee hour, or have some sort of, I don't know, it could be meet the president, walk around campus, but just be open to ideas, because, and I know you meet hundreds of people probably every day, but it's so important that the advancement people, their list of people, makes it up to the top of your list.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, Meg, what are some misconceptions about fundraising that you believe higher education leaders should once and for all just let it go?
Yeah, there is no philanthropic office. There's no philanthropic department. It is a culture of philanthropy that is at your school. So, and you have to be the ones, all of the leaders need to embrace that. And that doesn't mean you're out there asking for money. We don't want you doing that. It should be led by the foundation office. So what we want you to do is kind of do what you're doing, but just serve as ambassadors for your school. Even when you're at the coffee shop, faculty too, students, everyone should be cheerleading and saying wonderful things about your school. So it's not just up to the advancement office to do philanthropy. You really should all be embracing a culture of philanthropy. And you asked about effective foundations before. They're the ones, the effective foundations definitely have that culture of philanthropy at their schools, where everybody feels a responsibility for the money that's coming in.
I love it. I love it. Now, for the environment, as we're talking now, we're going to kind of switch gears and think about what's happening nationally. Lots of conversations on economic realities, lots of conversations on demographic shifts. Our community colleges are seeing this on the front lines and directly experiencing this. In some cases, it's almost, you don't want to refer to it as a bust, but it's a bust. But it's a bust that it's uncontrollable in some cases. In addition to those conversations that are being had nationally and trying to prepare community colleges to lead through such disruptions, what other trends from a philanthropic standpoint are on the horizon that you would say, Meg, we need to be paying attention to over the next 3 to 5 years?
You know, giving is changing. It's not just a transaction anymore. You don't just, I mean, some people do, but it's not just about going to a golf outing, spending a few $100s, maybe buying a raffle ticket, and then moving on to the next charity. The donors today, especially the major gift donors, they truly want a relationship with you. They want to know how they can change what's going on in their communities. They want to make an investment with you. So it's about relationship building. That takes time. That is something you have to be patient with. I think when I first started, again, 20 years ago in fundraising, and I said I was a special events person, that was the trend then. It was events, bring in those dollars and send them off to scholarships. It's a different ballgame now. It is building relationships. Of course, events are important, but they're much more strategic. So I don't know about you, Dr. Mordecai, but the presidents of most community colleges, when they go to a big scholarship ball or some event, they should know who they're sitting with. They should have information about what everyone at that table has already brought to the school, why they're at the table, if they're thinking about making a gift. You should be prepared. Those special events are strategic. Not that you're going to ask for money at an event, but it's all part of cultivation and stewardship and building those relationships over time. And it takes time. You have to be patient with gifts now and a lot more strategic with events. They cost a lot of money, and if that money has a better place to go at your school, and if it costs $25,000 to run an event, really think about where that $25,000 could have gone. Could you have instead run, like I mentioned before, perhaps a breakfast with the president to meet the donors? And that's going to cost, a few $100s for coffee and donuts. So really just think about your events. That I know some folks just love them and they're fun, and I get it, but there should be some strategy behind them. So again, away from transactional and more into relationship building. That's where the trends are going.
I've got to ask this question because I know that folks are watching this and they're like, if you don't ask this question, Mordecai, we're going to have a problem. There's some folks, they don't know when to make the ask. Meg, do you have any advice? Because you talked about patience. When Do they move from relationship building into making the ask?
Yeah. And in the advancement world, we have the donor pipeline and the donor pyramid, and there's all kinds of calculations to it. But you really just have to get to know the donor to find out when is the right time to ask that right person for the right amount for the right purpose. It all has to line up, and you can only do that if you know the person. You have to have lunch with them. And I realize some folks can't always meet in person, but you have to get to know them. You have to learn what they're passionate about. And again, it's an art, right? It's a little bit of science. We certainly have software to track moves management and how you move a donor from making maybe a $500 gift and move them up to more of a leadership gift. But so it does. There's some science to it, but there's an art too, and it's the art of relationship building, and the advancement people are so good at it. And presidents are good at it too, they just don't know it. So.
I love it. Thank you for answering that for me. Now, I've got to ask you this, because the heart of the creating of this podcast was really about, we go to these conferences and we go to the sessions, but we don't always get a chance to hear the stories and all of the wisdom that those that are sitting on panels or leading those presentations, there isn't always time for someone in the audience to build such a relationship and hear that. So in that spirit, I asked this question. For you, when the work has become difficult, what have you done to keep yourself motivated and connected to your passions and your personal mission?
Yeah, I used to meet with students. I would just set up appointments and go have coffee with them, because meeting students and just sitting, sometimes I would go over to the student center and just watch students or talk to them. How's it going? How are your classes going? Just to connect again to why I'm there, and the students are the reason I am there. Now that I'm in an office and I'm not on a campus so much, I reach out to our volunteers. We have wonderful volunteers. Over 400 community colleges belong to CASE, and it's thousands of community college members. And I will call them and say, what's going on at your campus? Tell me about a big gift. I just talked this morning with a gentleman from Metropolitan Community College. They just received a $5 million grant this morning, and he was so excited, and just, months and months it took to line that up, and I know the work behind it. So when I hear his excitement, I get excited. I'm like, all right, it's a great feeling, and I sleep well at night knowing that I'm giving back, and even in my weird way here, I'm doing my best to help the fundraising folks at these community colleges.
And you're doing a great job, and we appreciate you. I'm going to try to sneak two questions in here.
Sure.
My next question for you before my last one is you've had mentors along your way. You've had folks who have helped influence you in your journey, that have helped shape your philosophy. Who have those folks been? What have been some of those key takeaways that you could share with us?
Yeah, in my career, I have to mention a gentleman named Michael Bennett. He was the head of financial aid at Brookdale Community College. He was there, I think, 23 years. After that, he went to St. Petersburg College. He was the head of in Florida, head of the financial aid office there. He was also the chair of the National Association of Student Financial Aid Officers. I think I got that right. But I started at the college when I was 25. He was older than and he still is older. I'll remind him of that. But he just had so much joy about what he did. And he would tell me, he's like, look, the numbers will get to you, but keep an eye on the students, talk to the students, and focus on how you're solving problems. You are changing lives and solving problems, and please have fun. If you aren't having fun in your job anymore, it's not the place for you. And he always had me laughing. No matter what was going on, I would walk in, talk to him about a scholarship situation or money that got screwed up, things happened. And somehow he had me laughing. We solved the problem. So I think for him as my mentor, he just always reminded me to keep it light, to know that as long as I'm doing the best I can and I have the students in mind, that's what really matters to me.
I love it. I love it. Well, as you know, the show is called Discovering Your Mission. We love to end the show by asking our guest, what is your personal mission statement, Meg, and why?
Yeah, I think it was up in Monroe Community College up in Rochester, New York, had a campaign called Removing Barriers to Success. Mm-hmm. And I just saw that, in their headlines, and they did great with the campaign. And I started thinking, that's what I am doing. That's what everyone at a community college is doing. We are removing barriers to success. And then at the latest AACC, you mentioned the American Association of Community Colleges, at their last convention, Dr. Pollard, there was an author named Matthew Desmond, and Dr. Pollard did a shout out to his comment that community colleges are the country's poverty abolitionists. And that is what we're all about. That is my mission. I want to get rid of poverty. I want to remove barriers. I love the open access environment. And that is what keeps me going. That is my mission.
Ladies and gentlemen, Meg Natter. She is the Director of Community Colleges and Foundation for CASE. Meg, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. I hope I've helped and inspired others. And, fundraising for community colleges, it is happening and it is strong right now. So keep going.
What an outstanding conversation. Meg, thank you for joining us and for sharing your wisdom, your passion, and your heart for advancing the mission of community colleges through philanthropic efforts. Your insights remind us that fundraising is never just about dollars. It's about transforming lives, strengthening communities, and investing in human potential. As I reflect on today's conversation, 3 lessons stand out. First, relationships always come before resources. The most impactful philanthropic efforts begin with trust. The strongest leaders don't simply ask for support. They build authentic relationships rooted in a shared vision for community transformation. Second, every leader is a storyteller. Whether you are a president, vice president, faculty member, or staff member, your ability to communicate the mission of your institution is one of your greatest leadership responsibilities. Great fundraising starts with telling compelling stories about lives being changed. Third, community colleges represent one of America's greatest opportunities for impact. As Meg shared, philanthropic organizations, corporations, community leaders increasingly recognize that investing in community colleges means investing in workforce development, economic mobility, and stronger communities. The opportunity before us has never been greater. As you lead today's episode, I'd encourage you to reflect on this. Your mission isn't defined by your title. It isn't determined by the size of your budget or the position you hold. Your mission is revealed through the lives you choose to impact, the barriers you help to remove, and the legacy you build through service to others. When we focus on creating opportunity instead of simply achieving success, we discover that our greatest influence often comes through helping others realize their own potential. A special thank you once again to our presenting sponsor, the EDU Ledger, for making conversations like this possible and for their commitment to advancing innovation, leadership, and excellence throughout higher education. And finally, thank you for being a part of discovering your mission. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I invite you to visit itsdrmordecai.com, where you can find additional podcast episodes, leadership articles, speaking opportunities. Let's connect, resources designed to help you lead with impact and purpose. And until next time, keep discovering your mission, keep leading with purpose, and never underestimate the difference your life can make for others. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.